All right, let's talk. Let's talk about Kano. So recently, last weekend, I went to the Battle Hard in San Francisco, which is like kind of local. You know, it's driving distance for me. Um, and I knew I was going to be bringing Kano. Right now, in the Calling LA, where the Pro Tour was at, I lost in the finals to a Kasai, which is traditionally a very good matchup for Kano. And I didn't want that to happen again. So I knew that a lot of the other Kanos in the game, like Julian and Felipe, who top aided the Pro Tour, are mostly going with a pitch stack game plan, where they play a bunch of defense reactions, they stack the deck, memorize the contents, and then have a really, really, really big combo turn. Where they know exactly what's on top, so they can choose when to KO and when to opt and everything like that, right? And they don't run into any troubles, and they can do like an insane unstoppable combo at the end of the game. I generally don't like that style of play. I think it's not very fun, but I lost so much money from losing that one game to Kasai that thousands of dollars. I lost like $6,000, and so I was like, all right, fuck it, like we're gonna learn it. It seems kind of like a cool technique. So I talked to Julian and everyone else who's doing the pitch deck thing, and they're telling me about kind of how they do it. The deck list isn't too crazy. It's just you just add like 3 Sinks, 3 Fates, 2 Oasis Respite is currently what they're running. Sometimes they run like Yellow Sinks as well. But they talked to me more about the technique of actually how you pitch deck Kano, and I thought I would spend most of the story time actually talking about that and the process of how I learned to do it, because I think it's really, really interesting. Basically, you need to be able to, while playing a game, over the course of your 50-minute match, you need to be able to memorize somewhere between 20 to 30 cards and their exact placement. And if that sounds difficult, it's because it kind of is. I don't think I could do it without like a lot of practice. But Julian was like, hey, I do this thing called Memory Palace, and it works really, really well for me. Here he sent me an article, that a little write-up that he did, which was very good, about how he does it and some examples. And so I'm going to talk to you guys about that. So basically what Memory Palace is it's a mnemonic technique, right? Where you have a place, your palace in your memory. That's what it's called, Memory Palace. Wow. Usually your house or something, right? And instead of just trying to remember things like, okay, it's 1 and then it's 3 and then it's 9 and then it's 7. Instead, you put things, images of things, into specific places in your memory palace. You walk the same route every time in your mind. So like for me, I walk in the front door, and right when I open the front door, to the right is a little shoe basket. And then to the left is like picture frames. And then I walk into my room and I have some things in my room. I have a piano right here that you can't quite see. I have my computer, which is here. And then I have my bed, and then I have my like closet and dresser, right? So what you do with this Memory Palace technique is, instead of just trying to remember, okay, Blazing Aether, Wildfire, Prognosticate, Blazing Aether, Wildfire, Prognosticate, you go, okay, Kano, because Blazing Aether has Kano on the art, is sitting here and he's playing the piano. And then the next card that I pitch is Aether Wildfire. So Aether Wildfire is streaming on my computer. But because her hands are on fire, she's melting the keys, right? And then you want to make as many like connections as possible. What kind of music would Kano play? Well, Kano looks like a rich bastard, so he probably is playing classical music and feeling really smug about it, right? Aether Wildfire is burning the keys, like I said. And then we have another card on the bed. Who's sleeping? Well, it's Prognosticate. It's the guy with the big green staff. And you have to make ways for your brain to associate with these cards. Sometimes it's really easy. Like the character of Kano is Blazing Aether. That's very easy to remember. I just remember some stuck-up, arrogant wizard guy who's competent doing things. But for cards like Prognosticate, it's a little bit more difficult because it's just a generic-looking wizard guy with a green staff, a big green staff. So it helps to have things be absurd, funny, gross, or anything like that, anything memorable. So what I did with Prognosticate, big green staff guy, is I just imagine this guy in wizard robes that are open, and he just has a really long dangly penis that's green. And he just like windmills it around. And you're like, oh my God, Majin, that's ridiculous. But you're not going to forget it. The next time you see Prognosticate, you're going to think, oh my God, Majin thinks about that guy and his long dangly green penis, right? And so it's a bunch of stuff like that where you just try to remember the cards. You try to make them as memorable as possible, and then you put them along your route. Now remember, the route is always the same through your house, the same every single time. So no matter what, it's going to be like piano, computer, bed, dresser. Then we go to the bathroom. It's sink, toilet, shower, cabinet, right? And then we go to the kitchen, and it's pantry, sink, again, kitchen sink, right? Oven, fridge. And you just put those things there, right? And so then when you have to remember your pitch stack, when it's time to combo, or when you need to think, okay, how many blues are left in my deck? What are the top 4 cards? You can go, okay, let me walk through my house. Is there anything in the shoe cubby? There's 3 blues in the shoe cubby. Okay. What are in the picture frames? Okay, there's Toma Fendal, Aether Arc. Cool. Who's in the bedroom? Kano's playing piano, so it's Blazing Aether. Aether Wildfire's on the computer, Prognosticates on the bed, and Aether Quickening is getting dressed in the dresser, right? And it makes it so much easier to remember everything because you don't have to actively remember. Your brain is really good at remembering things in sequentials, and it's really good at remembering things when you give it more things to surround it with. So not only for me are like the characters doing something, right? They're playing the piano, they're streaming on the computer, but they're interacting with each other, right? Maybe Aether Quickening is looking at Prognosticate on the bed, windmilling his big green penis, and he's like grossed out. He doesn't like that very much. I remember that connection, and it helps you kind of remember it. So after a couple hours of practice, I was able to get to the point where I could memorize 30 cards in a row. Then came the difficult part, which was doing it in an actual game. So what I would do is I would just like goldfish the deck, which just means I'd solitaire it. I'd take my Kano deck, right? And I'd like pretend like I'm playing a game while doing my pitch deck. And I just like practice. I went to a local, and a local's like armory or whatever. And I started doing some pitch stacking, and I was doing like dummy damage. Because if you pitch stack, you're just like, okay, tone blue, wildfire, blazing, tone blue, like blazing, wildfire, Aether Flare. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, sick. Arcane Barrier, here's 300 damage, like hold this. And everyone's life is only 40 in Flesh and Blood, so they like super die. And it does make you feel a little bit like God. It's really cool. It's just like really boring to do it for the whole game. And then if it doesn't work out, like if you end up dying, I feel like shit, because I'm like, if I'd have just played normal Kano, I probably would have just won. But it's another technique which I was like really happy I learned, and I did get to put into use quite a bit. People are very like aware of this though, so a lot of your opponents, if you do play the pitch deck, will try to have a plan into it. Sometimes it won't work, sometimes it will. All right, moving on. So San Francisco. I showed up, and I honestly just wasn't feeling super hot about the tournament. Prisms everywhere right now, especially in California. Like, California has always had an incredibly high illusionist percentage in NorCal. And so I expected it to be the case. It was tied with Azalea for most represented deck in the Battle Hardened. But, we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna try to do what we can. Because if we hit Prism, like the Prism matchup is so bad. And it's not just bad, like a normal bad matchup. You're like, oh yeah, I've played bad matchups before. It's like sub 5%. That's how bad it is. It's hilariously bad, except it's not actually funny. It's just really, really bad. So I sit down, and I am playing against an Arachne, which is an interesting matchup because it's an incredibly good matchup, unless they're on Fatigue Arachne. Fatigue Arachne is kind of weird, which I still think an incredibly good matchup for Kano, but you can't actually pitch stack Arachne because he looks at the top of your deck and then he could put it on the top or the bottom. So if he just puts everything on the bottom, if you're trying to pitch stack, you don't actually know what your pitch stack is, which makes it very, very difficult, right? So I just decided to play standard Kano, and I do like, they present AB1, and I'm like, okay, cool. Nice. Only Arcane Barrier 1. We're probably good. Thank you for the Prime sub. Appreciate that. And on my turn 0, I just like play a Potion of Deja Vu in Arsenal, like Wildfire or something. I draw up to 4. My opponent taps out and I kill him. It's his first turn. I have Potion of Deja Vu on board, and I draw into like Tome, Blues, and a Blazing, and I'm like, you're so dead. So I just like pitch him. I tome him back on top. I get the tome. Or Potion him back on top. I get the tome. I get the Blazing. I draw 2 cards. Like Kano again. It's another fucking tome. Like my opponent just explodes. They cast their second spell of the game and they die. Sorry about that. Round 2, I'm playing against a buddy, one of my teammates, Austin Kim, who's on KO, and I know that I cannot pitch stack this KO because Austin is, like I said, a local and a teammate, and so there's that sub alert. He's a local and a teammate, so I've ran pitch stack Kano into him a lot of times. Like him and John Cooper are the people I practice it against the most, both KOs. And they've gotten really good at playing against pitch stack Kano. And so I'm only winning like 1 in 5, which means I need to just play standard Kano. We're playing a really tight game. I get to a spot where I have the combo. I crack rags. If it's a blue, I win. If it's a red, we keep playing. It's a red, we keep playing. I Sonic Boom. If it hits anything that does more than 2 damage, I win the game. I flip a 2 damage spell, miss it by 1 damage, end up losing. Still a really, really good game. So we're 1 and 1. There's 7 rounds, and since I lost early, if I lose 2, I'm out of the tournament. So I have to win 5 more in a row. And if I pair into Prism, I automatically lose. And I know a lot of Prisms there. So the next round, I like sit down and I'm like looking around. I'm like, is it a Prism player? Right? There's a bunch of Prism players next to me, but no, I'm actually up against Kasai. I believe Colin was his name. And my plan is just pitch stack. I get the pitch stack. And it works out. I have to cut a little short because I couldn't find a tome in the first half of my deck, so I couldn't put it at the bottom. So I just end up doing like a double Wildfire, double Blazing, or something like that. And I ended up getting there through like taking on the chin or something. It was like a normal pitch stack game. I wasn't in any danger of dying. We're 2 and 1. Next round is against Dorinthia. And once again, we're just pitch stacking. This was Dean, I believe. We're pitch stacking and we get to the end of the game, and my opponent's like holding some cards, so I assume it's at least Oasis. We start comboing. They have like AB2, a bunch of blues in hand, and they Oasis my first Wildfire, and they take it on the chin, my second Wildfire, and I still do 160 damage to them. So through like AB2 3 times, Oasis, and take it on the chin, I do 160 damage through it. And we end up winning. So 3 and 1, keeping the dream alive. Unfortunately, I'm looking around me and there's just prisms everywhere, dude. Everywhere. So every single round is just like the prism lottery. It's like, is my tournament going to end? Do I get to keep playing? Right? Next round up against Peter Bedensik, another teammate and fellow Kano enjoyer. The only problem with this is like, I feel very comfortable in the Kano matchup, the Kano mirror. Very comfortable. The only person I don't want to play in the Kano mirror is Peter. Because he has as much experience in the Kano mirror as I do, because we played against each other. But also, he's not playing the pitch deck sideboard. So his sideboard is filled with cards to make the Kano mirror better. We end up playing an insane game where the last turn of the game is like literally 25 minutes of us just like sitting there and like doing a bunch of things back and forth and cracking all our potions and like trying to kill each other. It was insane game, super fun. I do end up squeaking it out though. Peter had to crack his Storm Striders first. We think that if he'd have done something slightly different, he may have been able to get there, but everything just kind of worked out for me and we do win the game. So we're 4 and 1. We need to win the next 2 in order to top 8. The next round, we play against another Arachne, where I basically just like, he taps low, I like Wildfire for 6, hit for 5, and then I Aether Spindle for like 10, and just find stuff and my opponent dies. Like, not close, right? Arachne's a pretty good matchup. And I end up taking that one down as well. So we're 5 and 1. We have a win in, and there's a lot of prisms I might play into, and there's also one Betsy. There's one Betsy player who's on Fatigue Betsy, which I think is literally unlosable for me. So I'm like, please, flesh and blood gods, please give me the Betsy and not the prisms. I sit down, we're playing Betsy, baby. Oh my god, we've done it. So yeah, we pitch stack. It's a giga stack. My opponent like steadfasts me and AB3s a bunch of stuff, and it doesn't matter. I still do hundreds of damage to them because it's just like ridiculous. You know, I got to pitch stack my entire deck. At one point, they Towering Titaned me for like 14 or something, and it blew up my Storm Striders, and I just let it because I was like, I don't need an arsenal. I don't need my Storm Striders. My whole deck's stacked. It'll be okay. And we end up making it into top 8. I'm going to pull up the top 8 picture because I think it's really funny. But it was a fun tournament. And then top 8 is nice because like I get cash money, right? We get a little bit of money. And then if we make first or second, then we get a PTI and more money. First also gets a gold foil, right? And I really want more PTIs because they're good for me. Here is the top 8 picture, which you can't see. Here is the top 8 picture. Patrick, local Guardian player, also a teammate, right? Anthony on Dash, Mr. Horsepool on Dash.io, Oliver on Prism, right? And then I'm trying to remember what they were on. Betsy, KO, something else. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But if you see my face, I'm not looking very happy. And the reason I'm not looking very happy is because I know that I'm playing against Oliver in the quarterfinals. I'm playing against Prism. And this Prism also plays way more blues than the normal Prism. So a little bit unfortunate. But we end up playing the quarterfinals match, and I get absolutely obliterated. It's not even a little bit close. I get crushed. I'm happy with my top 8, though. You know, it feels really bad to like play Kano into Prism, but it's okay. And then actually Patrick and Oliver ended up in the finals, which was really cool because they're both buds. And so I'm super happy to see them both get PTIs. Oliver takes it down on like Iris Hybrid Prism. Next to you is KO. Okay, so it's probably KO Dorinthia. Yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, Oliver takes it down on like an Iris Hybrid Prism. Really neat list. Just miserable for me. And the next day doesn't go very well. It ends up going pretty badly for me. It's not a terrible day. I just don't end up top 8ing. I go like 4-3 or something. Patrick top 8s again. Well done to him. And Prism, Iris Hybrid Prism, a different player, ends up winning the whole event. So Iris Hybrid Prism wins both the San Francisco events. Now, here's my problem. Is that I'm playing Kano. I love Kano because I just want to play Wizard. But Prism is currently going to be the first or second most popular deck at basically every single event moving forward for now. At least in my area. That's what it seems like. Kano cannot beat an AB2 Prism who knows what's going on. So I have to figure out my next tournament is I have a Pro Quest this weekend on Sunday, and then the weekend after I have Richmond, which is another battle hardened PTI like split. I have to decide, am I just going to send Kano and just hope to dodge Prism? Feels pretty bad. Or am I going to switch decks and try to play something else? Maybe I try to play Prism. Maybe I try to play Pankaj's Viscerai, right? Maybe I try something entirely different. I don't really know yet. But that's what I have to think about. So that's currently where my mind's at. But the pitch deck game plan was neat. It was really cool to do. Again, it's not my favorite. I prefer to just play like standard tempo Kano, like normal combo Kano. But having the pitch stack thing in my back pocket is like really cool. And it's just a neat skill. Like it's something that might be relevant later in my Flesh and Blood career. And so I'm happy to have taken the time to learn it. And if you have any interest in it, I think that you should learn it too. It's not super hard, but it does take some practice. And then I think I was like really helped out because I have so much Kano experience that like I never had to think about what to do with the actual Kano stuff. I only had to think about what to do with the actual like the Mind Palace pitch stacky stuff, right? Because I know exactly what Kano does. I know how many resources I need for things. I know how much damage I could do here through double Oasis, right? Like that kind of stuff. So that helped a lot. I think that gave me like an advantage on learning the pitch stack. But have definitely been some people like Jeremiah, another like local, was watching me just giga stack people over and over, and he was like, "Holy shit, man! I gotta play Kano. This is so cool." So it's really fun. It is really fun to be able to do hundreds of damage. How's the Kano versus Zelia matchup? Kano favored. Don't listen to anybody who tells you otherwise. But you gotta go fast. Yeah, it's probably like 60-40. It's not like insanely favored, but I would absolutely much rather be at the Kano side of the game. Now, I think if like both players are middling players, then it's probably like 50-50 to Azalea favored. But the better the Kano gets, the better it is for Kano, and it can only get so good for Azalea. Is my like stance on it. Next time we play each other, I'm gonna ask you to tell me your mind palace randomly and during the match. I'll tell you. I will literally like just tell you every card in the pitch deck. What about Brody list with Spellboy 182? Yep. Yeah, still Kano favored. They can't pay for anything. And like it's so easy to do, like, you know, it's so easy to chip damage in because they can't pay for shit, and it's so easy to combo them because they can't pay for shit. Anyway, that's the story time. I know it's a little shorter than normal. Not a lot happened, honestly. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Battle Hardened. Sorry if you played me and were hoping to make it into the story time and I didn't talk about the PTI event. I did end up losing to the Kasai the following day. He got off a really early Raise the Army for 2 on like turn 3 or something, and just whooped my ass. I couldn't quite get to the pitch deck. And yeah, it was a fun event though. It was a fun event. As much as it's a fun event, but God, I hate just like going to every round and just being like, please don't be Prism, please don't be Prism, please don't be Prism. It feels so bad. It makes me feel like my play doesn't matter very much, and that like what I get paired into matters more, which is not what I want to be doing, right? I'd rather just play a different deck if that's the case. No Ivy drip. Yeah, you're right. If I had alcohol poisoning, I would have won the event. But I didn't drink enough. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, thank you everybody for coming. Hopefully I'll have some more story time content coming up soon. Because I have a ProQuest and then Richmond, which should be pretty good. And then we have like Nats coming up, and the next set comes out in the next month, which is pretty cool. So thank you again, everybody, for coming by. See you next time.